We've had a significant update for Warhammer the Old World, and I am going to double down on a prediction video I did 6 months ago saying it was going to arrive in 2023. I'm going to give you 3 more reasons why it's arriving this year, and also why I reckon it's going to be around October time. Let's crack on. Right, so as before, rather than drag these 3 things out over the course of the video just to please the evil YouTube algorithm gods, I'm going to start by telling you what the 3 things are I'm going to discuss in this video. So the 3 reasons that I think we're going to see Warhammer the Old World this year, 2023, are firstly the release cycles. So subsequent to my video 6 months ago, none of those 3 points that I raised in the video have been proven wrong by subsequent announcements. Additionally, the best argument I received in response to my video saying I was going to be wrong was that the 3-year release cycle would dump the big old money train of the Games Workshop Warhammer 40,000 in its 10th edition this year. But I'll touch on in this video why, given the sheer number of games they're juggling in this 3-year cycle now, it's unlikely to impact the Old World's release. The second point is that the old kits are back, 100% back. They've confirmed these old sculpts will be back alongside brand new ones. We've seen the Bretonnian kits painted up in a new scheme. We've been told we're going to get Bretonnian Foot Knights, pulling their production window for this whole massive game that was scaring people in the sheer scope of it into a manageable beast to release in 2023. Not to mention the suspicious abundance of Warhammer the Old World friendly kits arriving for Age of Sigmar over the last 12 months. Finally, the third thing I'll be chatting about are the adept rumourers who have been talking about rumours for this kind of thing for quite a while and have really good track records. I'm going to name the people I'm pulling the rumours from so you can go and check this out as well. I'm not going to do the whole somebody emailed me something in my inbox because I'm super special and I know the stuff. These are people that share it freely, and I'm going to share that with you. So with these 3 things in mind, let's take a look at all 3 of those in more detail, after which we'll take a look at what's very likely to be coming for Warhammer the Old World, probably later this year. Right, so back in October 2022, when I was a wee nipper of a YouTuber, I made the prediction that we'd be seeing Warhammer the Old World in 2023. And if you're curious, you can watch that video here, I think. I was pointing the wrong direction, I think it's there. During that video I touched upon 3 key things to inform my decision, and I'm going to touch upon these really briefly, but just because nothing in the last 6 months has contradicted my assumptions there. So firstly, it's that the timeline completely adds up. They teasingly suggested a 3 to 4 year window in Warhammer community and posted this back in 2019 when they'd announced the new logo. Not only did this land us in 2023, but it marks the 40-year anniversary of Warhammer Fantasy becoming a thing. And they bloody love celebrating those birthdays, with the 25th birthday being one that I remember with like a special rule book, a poster, and a shiny Harry the Hammer model. The second point I made was that they'd made a load of progress way back when, because they started branding the Total War artwork and design work with Warhammer the Old World, and had been involved in that process with Creative Assembly, who make the Total War games. Now that massive project of a game released in 2022, and they would have needed that design work way back themselves to produce this game, the cinematics and everything involved there. Additionally, the Warhammer community team had previously done these reveals for the Sisters of Battle for Warhammer 40,000, taking us from an announcement through design work and that kind of thing, and actually time-wise things lined up really well with this landing in 2023. The third thing I talked about there was that classics would be back in production, and I excitedly waved around a Bretonnian sprue. Bretonnian sprues for models which have since been proven to come out, basically because the artwork they showed represented perfect renditions of existing sculpts rather than a reimagined version. So as I said in my introduction, loads of people engaged with the video. Thank you so much for that. I like a little bit of debate back and forth, and as I said, I was on the fence. It could have swung either way, and there were some really good arguments for this arriving in 2024. The most compelling of which was that the last edition of Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer 40k arrived in July 2020. Now 40k is known as Games Workshop's most popular game, and that and Age of Sigmar released on a 3-year cycle, causing everybody to identify that 2023 was the year of the 10th edition of Warhammer 40k. However, here's 2 reasons why I don't think that is an issue for Warhammer the Old World. So firstly, that cycle has become rather cluttered of late. We're now sat on a large number of games, all trundling about with different editions, and if you throw the sizable massed battle games alongside 40k and Age of Sigmar of Horus Heresy and now Warhammer the Old World, that's 1 too many games to release singly on a 3-year cycle. And that's not even taking account other popular games such as the Middle-earth strategy battle game, Necromunda, Warcry, Kill Team, Blood Bowl, and all the other stuff, but the little tiny ones. The second reason I don't think this 40k release will push us back into 2024 is that in 2021 they released a new edition of Age of Sigmar. So the third edition of Age of Sigmar came out in 2021, the next one's due in 2024. If there's one game that's going to compete for attention against Warhammer the Old World, it's going to be its weird flying eel featuring offspring of the Age of Sigmar. I just think it's much more sensible to release it in a 40k heavy year. So anyway, touching back on the reproduction of miniatures, I'm going to go on to my second key point of this video. So yes, it's no longer speculation, the old kits are back in production and we were shown a multitude of Bretonnian kits. Brand new colour schemes, they look fantastic. So Warhammer Community confirmed this in their article. They also said we will be getting some new kits alongside them. And they did mention Knights of the Realm on foot, which we haven't had before, which is great, aside from sort of really old back, which I think is reasonable to assume are represented by that render that we saw, which are really neat and do look like they would fit in the existing Bretonnian range. So it's reasonable to imagine that we will see resculpts for some of the non-plastic miniatures in the range, as well as some new named characters, given that most of the named characters that existed back in Warhammer Fantasy wouldn't have even been born yet in the new setting. So why am I mentioning this in the video? Well, time-wise it really helps us because it means that they've got a kind of head start on production if they're bringing these old kits back. Not to mention that in October last year they did mention that they had rules written and playtesting was taking place, meaning that with these old kits being produced a while back, the design team could focus entirely on just the new stuff for each of the ranges. And I couldn't leave this section of the video without mentioning the number of Age of Sigmar ranges which are taking on an old world aesthetic. So rather than adapting them to have flaming hair or ride eels, the number of ranges have been updated with not necessarily Age of Sigmar specific updates, but rather updates that we would have expected to see happily sitting in an army update in Warhammer Fantasy or trundling about Mordheim. Specifically, these are the Soul-Blight Gravelords or Vampire Counts as we used to know them, the Slaves to Darkness or Warriors of Chaos as we used to know them, or they were known as Slaves to Darkness like way back, but they changed the name a bit, and the Seraphon or the Lizardmen as they were known in Warhammer Fantasy. Now these are some fantastic looking updated ranges, and as well as keeping that look that we would associate with Warhammer Fantasy, albeit with shiny, really lovely new miniatures. They also don't have many icons or elements which would tie them specifically to Age of Sigmar, and with a scan through these new kits I just found a helmet of a Stormcast on one of the Knights of Chaos, and that was one of the older ones that they updated slightly with command options and things like that. So I think it's certainly something they've bared in mind, that they can sell these as cross-compatible kits, which again just kind of helps suggest that we are going to see the game imminently. In order to segue smoothly into my third point for this video, I will just mention that Hastings, the infamous rumour monger of old, mentioned that Bretonnians and Tomb Kings were back in production over a year ago. And my third point will be catching up with a few of the folk who have proven themselves as being adept at giving us rumours that actually pan out, and looking at what they're saying is coming next. Third and finally, the Rumourers, I will just throw this in quickly now. If you like the cut of my jib and you like this video, please do feel free to click the like button. It really helps me in the channel, thanks. So at this point there are an absolute ton of rumours circling, and some of them are probably absolute chaff. There's just somebody that's gone, all right, okay, the starter box is going to be Tomb Kings and Bretonnians, because that's really logical. They've shown us Tomb Kings and Bretonnian stuff. It would be popular. Now these kind of rumours, which are educated guesses, are absolutely fine, and sometimes they will pan out because they're educated guesses. And I'm also aware that a lot of YouTubers can be quite cryptic about the rumours they've received. They can be like, oh yes, somebody snuck into my very important inbox and told me X, Y, and Z. I'm just gonna quote two rumour folk who you can just type into Google and you will find them on websites saying these things well in advance. The first of which is Hastings, or the official name is 75 Hastings 69 as they appear online, and Fate, I'm going to pronounce that Fate, 212. Not only do they have a track record for rumours dating way back, they've both predicted things about Warhammer the Old World which have proven to be true. So I'll start with Hastings, who has been doing rumours about Warhammer for blimmin' donkey's years. And I first came across them in the noughties when I was posting blog pictures of my ogres that I was painting for Warhammer Fantasy and Lizardmen and things like that. And they were there, well established, sharing rumours and getting things right. And Hastings over a year ago said, for those of you interested in the Old World project, I can tell... okay, I'm not going to do that voice. I can tell you that the Brett and Tomb King plastic kits are going back into production, ready to be available when the project launches. And then about 6 months ago, he expanded to say, that this was to get some updated photography, and the Orcs and Goblins, including the Ball Boys, would be included in this reproduction. Now, Fate 212 is a really interesting one because 2 weeks before the Warhammer community announcement that the 20mm bases were going up to 25mm, they posted this, telling us that small infantry would go up to 25mm, large infantry 30mm, and so forth. Even earlier in March, they did tell us that they were expecting to see Warhammer the Old World in the fall, or autumn as we'd call it in the UK, sitting sometime around September, October, November time, and I would pretty much hedge my bets as it being October, November time, a bit later in the year, so it competes less with things like the additional seasons of Warcry, and there's a suggestion that Warhammer 40,000 Epic may return, or certainly something Titanicus around then, and it's unlikely we'd see it creeping into December because that's usually army box territory. Here's the really exciting stuff though. Fate goes on to say a number of other things, including that you can use your old models with their old bases, you can use movement trays, which you can. If they're going bigger, it's absolutely fine. You can put them on spaced out movement trays, and delightfully for somebody like me who has got nearly 100 Night Goblins on round bases for Age of Sigmar from the brilliant Battle for Skull pass box, these circular 20mm bases actually do fit over a 25mm square base. Fantastic, bit of blue tack and I'm good to go. And with impressive swiftness, Jose Vega of Custom Meeple shared these trays on Facebook with their website custommeeple.com, selling these at your convenience, and you can also reach out to them on Facebook and Instagram. And they're in no way affiliated with me, I just think they're neat. Finally, excitingly, they say the launch box will be Empire versus Orcs. They note that the Bretonnian and Tomb Kings previews were just to sort of reassure people that they are coming back to the game, with the Tomb Kings getting the biggest range overhaul, which sort of makes sense because there are some bigger skeletons still left in there and some metal or resin kind of Tomb King lores that haven't aged especially well, although their plastic skeletons were great. And I really want to pick up the Necrosphinx, so I'm hoping that sticks around. And they suggest in order the first 6 factions we're going to be getting are Empire, Orcs and Goblins, Chaos, Kislev, Bretonnia, and Dwarfs. Well, hey, and bonus 4th reason that's going to arrive in 2023. They've just, while I've been recording this, posted a Warhammer community article saying that it's going to be previewed at Warhammer Fest 2023. It's going to be on Sunday the 30th of April. It has a slot. These previews, they show stuff. So whilst occasionally there have been little teasers showing at these kind of previews, so the Dawnbringers for instance, it was in an Age of Sigmar slot where they also showed miniatures, so I would expect to see something substantial. And it's also worth noting that Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, Horus Heresy, and even Kill Team received brilliant animated theatrical trailers for their releases. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see that, maybe we see the launch box, maybe we see some new models and potentially a developer diary or something. And I'd be really interested to know if we are going to be getting a Ravening Horde style book or a Warhammer Fantasy Compendium with stats for all the armies that people have got sat in their cabinets waiting to play a game so they can get it going out the door, and hopefully maybe a PDF type document explaining what base sizes we need so we can start making our armies. So anyway, there's my 3/4 reasons that we're going to be seeing it in 2023. I suspect we're going to be seeing a lot more soon. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Shout at me if you think I'm wrong. Cheers for watching.